Well, it's been an interesting week in Stellaris. Information has come out about Utopia. And first of all, I want to point out that this is a Dev Diary that has some extensions on it. I'm not actually going to touch the actual Dev Diary till the end of this episode, mainly because it's the music from Utopia. It's a very esoteric sort of thing. So music in general is more of a typesetter, an atmosphere builder. But there's a lot of really interesting things that Mr. Waldetoft Andreas has put together for the Utopia expansion. So we will get on top of that very shortly. In the meantime, it does look like Martin Anvard, better known as Wiz, has done an AMA on the subreddit for X Games, and I wanted to go over some of these answers because they do impact Utopia in general as well, and I kind of want to touch upon some of these. First of all, there were a whole bunch of questions, and I kind of grabbed some of the more interesting ones in terms of ideas and what is potentially coming up in the future, or what is very much likely going to come up in the future, but is currently not on the cards just yet because they want to further develop the systems in the game before they're going to attach more complicated systems on top of them, or at least expand on current items. So let's get on the way here, and let's take a look at some of the most interesting items that we're basically covered in this AMA, and I will put the link to the video, to the actual thread in the description of this video as well. Anyway, what is the feature your heart set on above all others that will not make it into Utopia? So this is future content, and the answer to this was a very clear and steady: it's Doomsday weapons. Which is described as a major staple in sci-fi that is currently missing from the game. Now, there's quite a lot of mods available at the moment regarding Doomsday weapons. However, I'm sure the developers have a plethora of ideas available at the moment, or at least on the cards, when it comes to creating new things such as Doomsday weapons. And of course, now that we will be able to build things like Dyson spheres, etc., we will have the ability to generate enough energy to power these Doomsday weapons. And, destroying a planet is actually kind of difficult due to the amount of energy that is required. Obviously, it is nothing compared to the power of the Force, yada yada. Let's take a look here. Will players be able to build multiple megastructures in a single system, like multiple sensors, arrays, etc.? No, every single system will have only room for one megastructure. I have read, I think somewhere, that this is moddable, or this is one in one of the streams. I do watch those relatively frequently for reviewing for new content, etc. But it looks like right now we will only have a single megastructure, excluding habitats, in a system. Obviously, being able to mod those will mean that you will have potentially be able to build multiple rings around your star, or maybe even planets. We've seen some mods that work with having ring worlds around stars, and the Star Wars mod comes to mind, especially with Kuat drive yards. With Xenos becoming eatable, will we at one point be able to turn them into alien pets by adding an alien pet modifier or an alien zoo? Maybe. This is a very big maybe. There's no specific plans for Xeno zoos at the moment. This kind of thing reminds me of the late 1800s, early 1900s, where zoos would bring in African tribes to put in the actual zoo exhibits for showing, and this is an actual thing. Before people realized that, the humanities and all that stuff is kind of a big deal. So an interesting idea, very Victorian in its approach, but who knows? Maybe we'll see something like that along those lines. With Gene Warriors now becoming biological ascension only, can we expect something similar for psionic and synthetic, getting psychic robots or robot-exclusive armies? Psionic armies are exclusive to the psionic ascension path, together with Gene Warriors that are biological ascension only. There is no exclusive armies to the synthetic path currently, mainly because the synthetic path is already fairly overpowered, being able to upgrade your population to either cyborgs or full synthetics. It could potentially be a bit too powerful since armies are currently in the game, so I would expect that is going to be a thing there. If we go for the biological ascension, do Sector AI prioritize each species for each specific min-max composition? as in placing thrifty species on energy tiles, intelligent species on research tiles, etc. Okay, you will have to build pops. All farms work by synths. This is kind of this is not really answered in any way, shape, or form. I've noticed that Paradox has been very apprehensive to talk about any AI in combination with the sector management, which is annoying. There is no real details about that. Basically, the answer covered a lot of stuff regarding synthetics, who are arguably superior than any sort of biological forms when it comes to science and energy output, but nothing is really covered in this answer. Are we going to see a complete revamp of ground combat? And yes, the developers do want to completely rework the ground combat and get rid of the micromanagement of armies and transports. So I would not be surprised if at one point we will see transports being attached to ships that are part of your fleet, kind of similar to how you now have attack craft and bombers attached to your fleet. Though they do want to keep the different flavors of army types when you're using planetary invasions. It's going to be difficult probably to actually execute, but we'll see how that actually is going to go. Then there is an interesting question regarding the space nomads. Now, for those that have been following the channel for a while and been asking for space nomad mechanics video, right now it's very light. There's maybe like 4 or 5 events attached to them. They're not particularly interesting, and they're exceptionally rare, at least in my playthroughs. And a lot of the time they break fairly easily. But it does look like that this is on the to be done list, or the it would be cool list. Maybe an idea for a story pack similar to what we saw to Leviathans, but it's not very high on the list of priorities. The request for a fleet builder, yes, definitely. Fleet builders are something that are going to be added in one shape or form. For those people that have played Europa Universalis 4, if you remember, I think it was the Art of War that added the army builder, and it looks like we're going to be seeing something like that at some point in the future. And finally, something that I am very interested in is the plans regarding espionage in the game. Now, for those people that have been following the channel, again, for a while and have noticed me bitching quite a lot about the lack of any sort of fleet intelligence or anything along those lines, and being forced to resorting to exploits to find out what the enemy actually has. It does look like this is going to be something that's in the game, but the developers are currently far more interested in building the systems or expanding current systems to not just ramshackle a espionage system in on top of that. So they want to currently develop the systems a little bit more extensively before they're going to tag in the espionage system, just so that it doesn't become undervalued and not particularly good. It would add a very large amount of additional features to the game. If you've played any of the mods in regards of, say, the Star Trek New Horizons mod, where espionage and sabotage is a feature for the Romulans as well as the Cardassians, it's definitely possible to do so, and there's a couple of interesting iterations for it already. I'm really interested to see how this is going to develop. Then there is, I read the thesis of Stellaris is, the galaxy is ancient and full of wonders. Were there any competing visions or iterations, or did you know from the get-go what the spirit of the game was going to be? And this is not directly answered in the thread itself. However, the commenters in the thread actually do refer to an article that came out, I think, about a year ago, about how there were originally 2 competing versions of Stellaris. One was more of a character-driven Dune-like game where basically Crusader Kings in space, from what I could understand from the description there. And this is what came out instead. Now, are we going to see a game like that at some point? Maybe. Crusader Kings is very much in development still after 5 years of release, and currently I'm expecting Stellaris to last at least another 3 years. But maybe we'll see something like that in the future. I really hope so, because Dune is an expansive universe. It has a lot of political intrigue, etc. And it'd be fascinating to see, but it would be very event-driven, as Paradox games in general are very event-driven. except for maybe the more sandbox-orientated games like Hearts of Iron or Europa Universalis. Let's take a look at what else was covered. Not much more interesting stuff in regards of this. In all honesty, do have a read of the AMA. It is full. It's prop full of very interesting things. Oh yeah, there's one more thing about victory conditions. It looks like victory conditions are going to be iterated upon. Right now, there is something along the lines of, hey, conquer 40% of all habitable planets, or you set your own goals in your head, and then you diverge on your paths as you move along in the game. A game like this obviously does, in my opinion, does need victory conditions, as you know, you can, let's say you're playing your Ryoku in Europa Universalis 4. The achievement for Ryoku is conquer the whole world as Ryoku. It's called the Three Mountains. It is arguably one of the most difficult achievements to have in the game. Yes, but there's nothing like that really within the game itself of Stellaris. Sure, there is the purge all Xenos, or reach into the Shroud and stuff like that, but no really consistent things there. I really hope that we're going to see some sort of goals that you can set up, which is pretty much a staple of a 4X game. So let's move on towards the actual Death Diary. During the duration of this video, you may have heard some of the music already pop in. It looks like Andreas has gone the full length on this one, and considering this is a full-price expansion, I would hope that that is the case. They actually went down to Budapest to get a full orchestra to do the music for this particular expansion, and we're going to be seeing 5 new tracks. One is A New Dawn, Towards Utopia, The Imperial Fleet, Cradle of the Galaxy, and of course In Memory of MR. For those who don't know who MR is, it's Mercedes Romeo, the Blorg scientist who ventured out for 200 years to make friends, but was sadly not very good at it because she was repulsive. May she rest in peace after living, I think, 260 years. It was, it's an in-joke from the developers, or at least the broadcast team over at Paradox, because apparently there's friends. And other news as well, it looks like we're finally going to get Blorg-style body pillows. There was a tweet going out by the social media team over at Paradox. They basically said, if this tweet gets over 1,000 retweets, we will make Blorg body pillows. Well, it's happened. It's got over 1,000 retweets. Body pillows are going to happen. It's going to be very kawaii and senpai, please, etc. Anyway, that will wrap up this Death Diary for this week, as well as the overlook of the AMA. We're going to have I'm going to go back to recording the episodes for today. It's been a little bit slow recently, mainly because Mankind Prevails is kind of coming down on the end of the campaign, because we've basically finished it. We just need to crush the Felnull, and that's going to be a bit of an issue. And of course, the New Horizons campaign is running as well. That's good. It's actually looking a little bit more interesting now that we're at war with the Romulans. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other.